Midnight emergency. The fluorescent lights of Memorial General's emergency entrance burned Olivia Westfield's tired eyes as she cradled her 6-year-old son against her chest. Caleb's normally animated face was pale and still, his breathing shallow, following his fall from the treehouse. Blood matted his sandy brown hair and his little arm hung at an unnatural angle. "Please, someone help us," Olivia called out, her voice breaking as a nurse rushed forward with a wheelchair. "What happened?" the nurse asked, helping transfer Caleb's limp form. "He fell, almost 15 feet. He hit his head and wasn't responsive for almost a minute." Olivia's hands trembled as she smoothed Caleb's hair away from the gash on his forehead. Then he woke up confused and in pain. The emergency room erupted into activity. Nurses took vitals, inserted an IV, and rushed Caleb for a CT scan. Olivia followed in a daze, answering questions mechanically while her mind replayed the sickening thud of Caleb's body hitting the ground. As a single mother, she'd weathered countless storms, but nothing had prepared her for this crushing fear. "We need to take him to surgery immediately," a resident explained after the scan. "The head trauma has caused bleeding that needs to be addressed, and his arm requires surgical repair. Our trauma surgeon is on his way." Olivia nodded numbly, signing consent forms with shaking hands. They wheeled Caleb toward the surgical wing, and Olivia walked alongside, whispering reassurances she wasn't sure he could hear. Outside the surgical doors, she bent to kiss his forehead. "I love you, buddy. Mommy will be right here waiting." A deep voice came from behind her. "We'll take excellent care of him." The familiar timbre sent electricity down Olivia's spine. 7 years had passed, but she would know that voice anywhere. Slowly, she turned. There stood Dr. James Richardson, dressed in surgical scrubs, his dark hair now flecked with silver at the temples. The same intense blue eyes that once looked at her with love now regarded her with professional detachment, until recognition dawned. "Olivia!" His composed expression faltered. "James." His name felt foreign on her tongue after so many years of carefully avoiding it. She had last seen him the day she'd ended things, telling him to take the prestigious fellowship in Chicago without her. She'd given him a clean break rather than burden him with her father's terminal illness. She never told him about the pregnancy she discovered weeks later. A nurse touched James's arm, breaking the spell. "Doctor, we're ready." James's professional mask slid back into place. "We need to move quickly." His eyes lingered on Olivia's face. "I promise you, I'll do everything I can for your son." She nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. "The surgery will take several hours. The nurse will show you to the waiting area." As they wheeled Caleb away, Olivia caught James's lingering glance, not at her, but at Caleb's face. A flicker of something unreadable crossed his features before the surgical doors swung closed between them. Olivia sank into a waiting room chair, her mind spinning. Of all the hospitals, all the surgeons in the city, it had to be James who held her son's life in his hands, the son he never knew existed.
Father and son. 2 days after surgery, Caleb was moved to a regular pediatric room, his recovery progressing remarkably. Olivia was organizing his get-well cards when James entered, this time without his white coat, his shift evidently over. "Hi," he said, awkwardness hanging between them. "Mind if I come in?" "Of course not," she replied, noticing the small gift bag in his hand. Caleb brightened at the sight of his doctor. "Dr. Richardson!" "Hey, buddy, I brought you something." James placed the bag on the bed. "I heard you like dinosaurs." Caleb's eyes widened as he pulled out a detailed model of a Tyrannosaurus Rex. "Wow! This is awesome! How did you know?" James's eyes flickered to Olivia. The nurses mentioned it. In truth, he'd spent the morning discreetly questioning the pediatric staff about Caleb's interests, hungry for any scrap of information about the son he'd never known. "This is the exact one I wanted for my birthday," Caleb exclaimed, examining the dinosaur from all angles. "Mom, look!" "It's wonderful," Olivia said softly, watching James watch their son. The resemblance was unmistakable now that she saw them together. The same thoughtful furrow of the brow, the same animated hand gestures when excited. "Do you like dinosaurs too?" Caleb asked James. I do. When I was about your age, I wanted to be a paleontologist. What's that? A scientist who studies dinosaur fossils. But you became a doctor instead? James nodded. I realized I wanted to help people, but I still have my dinosaur collection. You have a whole collection? Caleb's eyes widened. Can I see it sometime? The innocent question hung in the air. Olivia saw James struggle to keep his composure. Maybe someday, he answered carefully. After chatting about dinosaurs and showing Caleb a few simple magic tricks he remembered from his own childhood, James excused himself. Olivia followed him into the hallway. Thank you for the gift, she said. You didn't have to. I did, he interrupted. I've missed 6 years, Olivia. 6 birthdays. His first words, first steps, everything. His voice was steady but laced with pain. I'm sorry, she whispered. I convinced myself I was protecting both of you. James leaned against the wall, suddenly looking exhausted. I was so angry yesterday, I barely slept. But being with him just now, he's amazing, Olivia. You've done an incredible job raising him. He's a wonderful boy. I want to be part of his life, James said firmly. I've lost too much time already. Olivia nodded. We need to figure out how to tell him. He's still recovering, and it's a lot for a 6-year-old to process. I agree. We should take it slowly. Let me get to know him first, as Dr. Richardson. Then, when the time is right, I'll follow your lead. You're his doctor, after all. Over the next week, as Caleb continued his recovery, James visited daily. Sometimes he came in his white coat for official rounds, but more often he appeared after his shift, bringing books or small gifts. They built a Lego hospital together, while Olivia watched from the sidelines, her heart aching with what might have been. During one visit, Caleb fell asleep mid-conversation. James gently tucked the blanket around him, his fingers lingering on the boy's hand. He has my mother's ears, he observed quietly. And your laugh, Olivia added, and your stubborn determination. Poor kid, James smiled sadly. Olivia, when he's discharged, I don't want this to end. It won't, I promised. Whatever our past, he deserves to know his father. James's eyes filled with unexpected tears. I've delivered hundreds of babies, watched countless fathers hold their newborns for the first time. I never imagined I'd be denied that moment with my own son. Olivia reached for his hand, her own eyes wet. I can't give you back those years, but I can promise you all the ones ahead. Hidden truths. 4 hours after Caleb disappeared into surgery, Olivia paced the waiting room, her coffee gone cold. When the door finally opened, James stood there in his scrubs, surgical cap in hand. He's stable, he said, voice rough with fatigue. The bleeding has been controlled and we've set his arm. He's in recovery now. Olivia's knees buckled with relief. James moved swiftly, guiding her to a chair. When can I see him? She asked, wiping tears. They're setting him up in pediatric ICU. You can see him in about 20 minutes. James hesitated, then sat beside her. He's a strong kid, Olivia. In the fluorescent light, she noticed the fine lines around his eyes, evidence of the years that had passed. Thank you for saving him. I was doing my job. His voice was carefully neutral, but his eyes held questions. How long have you been at Memorial? She asked, filling the awkward silence. 2 years. I transferred from Chicago when my mother got sick. He studied her face. You never left Pinecrest? No. After Dad died, I stayed. I've built a life here. A life without James. But with his son, a truth hovering unspoken between them. A nurse appeared, saving her from further explanation. Dr. Richardson, you're needed. And Ms. Westfield, you can see your son now. James walked her to Caleb's room. The boy looked tiny amidst the machines, his head bandaged, his arm in a cast. Olivia rushed to his side, gently taking his hand. The next 24 hours are critical, James explained, checking monitors. But barring complications, he should make a full recovery. As he examined Caleb, his movement slowed. He looked at the boy's face with increasing intensity.
The shape of his jaw, the curve of his ear, the distinct cleft in his chin. "He's 6?" James asked quietly. "Yes," Olivia whispered, heart hammering. 6 years, 4 months. James's gaze met hers, a flash of calculation in his eyes. 7 years ago, they'd been together. 7 years minus 9 months. "I'll check back in a few hours," he said abruptly, leaving the room. Olivia knew that look. James had always been brilliant. It wouldn't take long for him to do the math. The next morning, Olivia awoke in the uncomfortable chair beside Caleb's bed. To her surprise, James sat in the corner, reviewing charts. He stood up, eyes bloodshot. "You stayed all night?" she asked. "I had other patients, but I kept checking in." He stood approaching Caleb. "His vitals are excellent. The post-op scan shows the swelling is already decreasing." Caleb stirred, blinking groggily. "Mom? I'm here, sweetheart." Olivia leaned forward, stroking his cheek. "Hey there, champ," he said with a gentle smile. "I'm Dr. Richardson. How are you feeling?" "My head hurts," Caleb mumbled, "and my arm's heavy." "That's normal. You took quite a fall, but you're going to be just fine." Caleb studied James curiously. "You fixed me?" "I helped. You did the hard part." "Cool." Caleb's eyes drifted to James's ID badge. "Your name's James?" "That's my middle name too." Olivia froze. She'd named him Caleb James Westfield, a private acknowledgement of his father. "Is it?" James's voice was carefully controlled as he glanced at Olivia. "That's quite a coincidence." After checking Caleb's reflexes, James excused himself. Olivia found him later at the nurse's station, staring unseeingly at a chart. "James, we need to talk," she began. "Is he mine?" The question was direct, his voice barely audible. Olivia closed her eyes briefly. "Yes." James inhaled sharply. "Why didn't you tell me?" "You were leaving for Chicago, the fellowship you'd worked toward your entire career. Then my father's cancer diagnosis came, and I couldn't leave him." Her voice trembled. "I found out about Caleb weeks after you left. I didn't want to force you to choose." "So you chose for me," James said, a flash of anger in his eyes. "You decided I couldn't be a father and a doctor? That I didn't deserve to know my own son exists? I thought I was doing what was best." "Best for whom?" His pager beeped before she could answer. "We're not finished with this conversation, but right now I have a patient waiting." He walked away, leaving Olivia standing there, the weight of 6 years of secrets pressing down on her shoulders.
Mending hearts. 3 weeks after the accident, Caleb was cleared to return home. Olivia packed his hospital room while Caleb sat in a wheelchair, proudly showing off his cast covered in staff signatures, the largest being Dr. Richardson's. "Will Dr. Richardson still visit me when I'm home?" Caleb asked. Olivia exchanged glances with James, who stood in the doorway. They had agreed to tell Caleb the truth after his discharge, once he was settled in familiar surroundings. "Actually," James said, stepping forward, "I was hoping I could visit you both, not as your doctor, but as a friend." Caleb grinned. "That would be awesome! You could see my room and my real dinosaur collection." James's smile barely masked the emotion in his eyes. "I'd like that very much." The following Saturday, James arrived at Olivia's modest craftsman house, clutching a housewarming plant and trying to calm his nerves. When Caleb threw open the door, his exuberance was infectious. "Mom, he's here!" Caleb grabbed James's hand, pulling him toward his bedroom. "Come see my dinosaurs." For an hour, James sat cross-legged on Caleb's floor, listening to detailed explanations of every prehistoric creature in his collection. Olivia brought them lemonade, lingering in the doorway to watch their identical expressions of concentration. Later, while Caleb was occupied with a video game, James helped Olivia prepare dinner. In the kitchen's close quarters, They moved around each other with surprising ease. "He seems to be recovering well," James said, chopping vegetables. "Any headaches or dizziness?" "Doctor mode again," Olivia teased. "No, he's been great. Frustrated about the cast, but otherwise back to his energetic self." "He gets that resilience from you," James said softly. Olivia paused her stirring. "James, about what happened between us." "You don't need to explain again." "I do. I made a decision that affected 3 lives without consulting you. I've regretted it 1,000 times," her voice quavered. "After Dad died, I almost called you so many times, but the longer I waited, the harder it seemed." "I looked for you," James admitted. "When my fellowship ended, I came back to find you. Your apartment was rented to someone else. Your old number was disconnected. We moved in with my father when his condition worsened. After he passed, I couldn't afford the old place on a single income. If I had found you then," James trailed off. "We can't rewrite the past," Olivia said gently, "but we can try to get it right from here." That evening, after dinner, they sat Caleb down in the living room. With simple words, they explained that James was more than just his doctor. "Remember how some of your friends have dads who don't live with them?" Olivia began. "Well, Dr. Richardson, James, is actually your dad." Caleb looked between them, confusion evident. "My dad? But you said my dad lived far away." "He did," Olivia explained. "He had to work in another city, but now he's back and he wants to be part of your life." "Why didn't you tell me before?" Caleb asked, lower lip trembling. James knelt before him. "Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, Caleb. Your mom and I lost touch with each other before you were born. I didn't know about you until I saw you in the hospital. If I had known, I would have been here every day of your life." Caleb considered this, his young mind processing. "So, can I call you Dad?" James's voice broke. "I would be honored." Caleb launched himself into James's arms, nearly toppling him over. Over the boy's head, James's eyes met Olivia's, both shining with tears. Later, after Caleb was tucked into bed, Olivia and James sat on the porch swing, a comfortable silence between them. "Thank you," James said finally, "for giving me this chance with him. It's what should have happened years ago." Under the porch light, he studied her face. "And what about us, Olivia? Is there any chance for what we lost?" She met his gaze steadily. "I don't know. We're different people now." "Yes," he agreed, "but some things haven't changed." His hand found hers in the darkness, fingers intertwining, tentatively at first, then with certainty. New beginnings. Over the next 2 months, they established a routine. James spent weekends with Caleb, coaching his t-ball team and helping with science projects. On Wednesday evenings, he joined them for dinner. The transition wasn't without challenges. Caleb sometimes tested boundaries, Olivia occasionally felt territorial, and James grappled with insecurities about his parenting skills. But gradually, they found their rhythm. One Saturday morning in late spring, James took Caleb fishing at Lake Pinecrest. They returned triumphant, Caleb proudly carrying a small trout. "Mom, look what we caught! Dad showed me how to cast the line and everything." The casual use of Dad still brought a lump to James's throat. While Olivia helped Caleb clean his catch for dinner, James's pager beeped, and hospital emergency. "I'm sorry," he said. "I have to go in." "It's okay," Olivia assured him. "We understand." Hours later, Olivia's phone rang. James's voice was tight with concern. "Caleb's been unusually tired lately, hasn't he? And I noticed some bruising on his arms today that seemed excessive for normal play." Olivia frowned. "Yes, he has been sleeping more. I thought it was growth spurts. I'd like to run some blood tests. Can you bring him in tomorrow?" The next day, Olivia watched with growing dread as James drew blood samples from a complaining Caleb. His face was professionally neutral, but she knew him well enough to see his concern. The results came back that afternoon. James asked Olivia to step into a conference room, his expression grave. "His platelets and white blood cells are both dangerously low," he explained. "Olivia, I'm worried about leukemia." The word hit her like a physical blow. "No, not Caleb. We need a bone marrow biopsy to confirm. I've called in the best pediatric oncologist I know." The next 48 hours passed in a blur of tests, consultations, and fear. When the diagnosis came, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, Olivia felt her world collapse. "The good news," Dr. Winters, the oncologist, explained, "is that the prognosis for children is excellent, over 90% survival rate with proper treatment." James stayed through every consultation, translating medical jargon and holding Olivia's hand. When she finally broke down in the hospital chapel, he held her against his chest. "He'll get through this," James whispered fiercely. "We'll get through this together." That night, after Caleb was settled in his hospital room for the first round of chemotherapy, James drove an exhausted Olivia home to shower and rest. On her doorstep, he hesitated. "I can stay," he offered, "on the couch." "Please," she whispered, "I don't want to be alone." Later, sitting at her kitchen table with mugs of tea, James reached across to take her hands. "I know this isn't the right time," he said, "but I need you to know something. These past months with you and Caleb, even with all the complications and adjustments, they've been the happiest of my life." Olivia looked up, her eyes red-rimmed but clear. "For me too. Whatever happens, whatever it takes to get Caleb well, I'm here. Not just as his father, but as the man who never stopped loving you." She moved around the table and into his arms. "I thought I was protecting everyone by keeping you away. Instead, I just made us all miss years we could have had together." "We can't get those years back," James said, "but we have now, and the future." 6 months later, Caleb's prognosis was excellent, his cancer responding well to treatment. On a crisp autumn day, James took Olivia and Caleb to the lake where he had taught his son to fish. While Caleb threw stones in the water, James knelt on one knee. "Olivia Westfield, 7 years ago, we lost our chance. I've been given a second one, and I don't intend to waste it. Will you marry me?" "Yes," she said, without hesitation, tears sparkling in her eyes. "Yes." From the shoreline, Caleb spotted the ring and came running. "Is Mom going to be Dr. Richardson too?" James laughed, lifting the boy into his arms. "What do you think about that, buddy?" Caleb grinned, revealing a missing front tooth. "I think it's about time. I've been waiting forever." "So have we," Olivia said, joining their embrace. "So have we." As the sun set over the lake, the three of them walked hand in hand toward the car, no longer separate lives intersecting by chance, but a family, made stronger by the very challenges that had once kept them apart.